Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning, aka Economic Elevation, aka Financial Consciousness. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to wish a happy Mother's Day to everybody out here who is a mother. Everybody out here who's got a mother, everybody out here who had a mother, everybody out here who is gonna be a mother. I just want to say all of y'all are just a bunch of sexy mothers today. So everybody who wishes they was a mother, you wish you could be a mother because only God blesses you with that ability to literally give human life. I mean, my gosh, is there any skill on earth more valuable than the ability to literally let a human being live? Right? I mean, you get to decide if a person lives or dies, if a person gets to exist. Now, fathers matter too. Now, don't get me wrong. We got Father's Day coming up. We can't forget about that too. But let me just tell you, I personally just think I just meditate on the miracle of God and just what mothers do and what we overlook and how we just don't realize how important of a job that is and how hard of a job I mean, that's a really difficult job, right? In fact, actually, I dare say that being a mother is it's a lot like being an investor, except much harder. It's much harder because when you become a mom and the baby's born, you're invested in a company that where you can't divest, right? Some mothers might divest. Maybe there's some mamas out there that do that, but that's kind of unthinkable, right? Most mothers, when they start the job, they finish the job, and that consistency that comes with being a mom, that means you pretty much have everything you need to be an investor, right? Like, don't tell me that you can be a parent and you can't invest. Like that doesn't make any sense to me, because investing is pretty much wealth building. Pretty much means you're doing the same thing every day, and you're achieving a long-term objective. So how does that differ from being a parent? Every single day you feed the child. Every single day you got to watch the child. Every single day you got to keep the little baby alive. You can't you can't declare bankruptcy in this business because bankruptcy means your child didn't make it, and that will be the unthinkable outcome. So imagine, I want you all to just process this. This is me being a little bit of a weirdo, but hey, I have a PhD, so I'm qualified to be weird in my ideas. Imagine if we approach business and investing and wealth building with the same dedication it takes to be a mom. Like really, imagine if all of us just literally said, okay, I'm gonna whatever moms do to become great parents and to raise those babies to the age of 18, they put 187,500 consistent hours of labor into just getting the baby to the age of 18, or maybe it's 156,500 hours. I get the numbers mixed up. It's scrambled. Today's a Sunday, so my brain's everywhere. But really, like that amount of consistency required to raise a child to the age of 18. Imagine if all of us approach every investment with the same attitude, with the same approach. I got this little baby here. Whether the baby lives or dies or thrives or suffers or whatever is all heavily dependent upon what I do. I'm going to feed the baby every day, no matter what. I'm going to raise the baby properly. I'm going to make sure the baby's protected, and I guarantee you that if we all just simply did that, if we all just said, anything that matters to me in business or investing, I'm going to approach it with the same dedication that it takes to be a mom, then black wealth will go up by about $5 trillion in one generation. I guarantee it. Tell me if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. I know that just you probably never I would be willing to bet you've never heard anybody say that before. Has anybody ever said that? Like, because it's so funny. Like I heard a young lady I mentored, and one time she was like, well, my friends make fun of me because I'm just a mom. I was like, what? It's crazy our world is that we use terms like, oh, you're just a mom. I mean, all you did was give human life, something that no scientist has ever been able to do in all of history. Like, really, like that's all you are as a mom. Like, think about how important your mama is. Have you ever had a job that was more important than your mama? Please don't say yes, because I'm gonna send you to the therapist. Anybody ever had a job that was more important than your mama? Anybody, any dudes, have you ever met a girl that was more important to you than your mama? Yes or no? Anybody ever, I don't know, ever went on a vacation that was so great that you're like, this is better than having a mom? Like, can you think of anything in your life that's more valuable than mama? Nothing, nothing. That's why when mama dies, like you just, part of you dies with it, right? But my mom, the Boyce you knew 2 years ago, he don't exist no more. He died. He died. December 24th, 2024. He's not here no more, because mama went to heaven and he went to heaven too. I said, I'm gonna go to heaven to be with my mama. And I said that to my wife. She got a little nervous because she's a therapist. I said, don't worry, man. I'm not gonna kill myself. But that's how I feel. I was like, I want to be where my mama's at, right? And I'm not gonna talk about it too much because I'm gonna start crying. That's how impactful mothers are. But I just really think that, sometimes I think, when you're looking for things and you're looking to get the things that you need to do what you want to do, being black for me, in my view, is a little bit like the Wizard of Oz. From the Wizard of Oz, you had the Scarecrow who was looking for a brain, and the Lion who was looking for courage, and then the Tin Man. What was he looking for? Or was he looking? He was looking for a heart, right? And then at the end, what happened at the end? What happened at the end? Yeah, they were all chasing the Wizard of Oz. For us, it's not the wizard. It's like the white man of Oz. It's like we're always chasing around behind the white man, trying to. Okay, can you give me a brain? Can you give me a heart? Can you give me courage? And everything that you have is already inside of you. Do you understand? Everything that you need to be a wealth builder and an investor is already in you. Again, if you know how to be a parent, you already know how to be an investor because the greatest investment you ever made was your kids. And also, you know how to do exactly what's required in investing. I'm speaking from a position of extreme expertise in this area. I've done deep dive analysis on this. I know the mathematics behind investing. I know exactly why some people get rich and some people stay poor. And it literally comes down to consistent, cumulative effort toward one long-term objective. And that objective might be wealth. It's the land of wealth. You're going down the yellow brick road of wealth. And that's what in fact, the yellow brick road simplified, it was actually political. It symbolized something related to the gold standard versus the silver standard. That's why her shoes were silver and the gold and the road was gold. And I think that at the time they were like, yeah, just the silver slippers aren't really that valuable. It's really the gold that you want to. It was weird. I got to look it up. It was very strange, but there were politics behind the Wizard of Oz. And so ultimately, when you're talking about following the yellow brick road to wealth, I really want you to understand everything you've got is already inside of you. You just have to retarget that energy and just tap into that, right? The greatness that's required to be a mother. And again, that's very different from like giving birth or very different from making a baby. Making a baby ain't the same as raising a baby. We all know these things, right? And making a baby, you can do that in just a few minutes. But raising a baby from the age of 0 to the age of 18 and beyond is just it's a life journey, right? It's a lifetime investment. It's a massive wealth building exercise because I think that in a capitalist society where they've trained you to worship the corporate plantation, you've forgotten how significantly important your legacy is in your wealth building process. You've forgotten how important your children are in that process. You've forgotten how important marriage is in that process. I'm proud to be a husband. My wife is she's part of the team. I'm part of her team. And so, the ability to engage in some of these old school methodologies that your grandparents understood before integration, before you traded in all your land and your businesses for student loans and corporate jobs. They knew all these things. Cultures around the world for thousands of years have known these things. They didn't. The Chinese didn't learn the value of family and legacy and intergenerational connection. They didn't learn that last week. They knew that 5,000 years ago. So when we go to the All Black National Convention, we're just really just remembering who we are, right? We did the All Black National Convention. The goal was, I said, we can't talk about wealth in a vacuum. You can't heal one person in a household without healing the whole household. You can't take a piece of fresh fruit and put it in a toxic environment. It won't be fresh for very long. So you have to work with everybody. You got to work with the babies. You got to work with the teenagers. You got to work with the young adults. You got to work with the millennials and the Gen Xers, and then you got to work with the boomers. You got to work with everybody and have everyone understand their role in the ecosystem because everybody has a different job, and that's how wealth gets built. Wealth is deeply connected to family, so that's why Mother's Day is just so important. And and I just want to personally do my best to not just say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, but to really help you to fully internalize how significant and how important your role is, how important your job is. Right before my mother passed, I talked to her when I was on my way down to Florida. She was getting the last ditch treatment. When mama's gonna die, you do everything. You pull out all the stops. And so we sent her down to Florida to a specialist to try to see what they could do. Of course, they didn't. It didn't work, but we tried. And I talked to her, and I remember her talking about her life, and she was doing therapy for the first time in her life. She'd never done therapy before, and it really transformed her right before before she went to heaven. And that's why I encourage everybody, if you really want to release the pain, release all the stress and trauma, when you get that out of your body, it just takes you to a different level. I promise you, you should give it a try. And so she was talking to me and she was telling me about how mean the world is. And that made me think about her childhood, like things she might have gone through as a baby. And I remember her also saying that she said, my whole life I was able to cheer on other people, but I could never do that for myself. Right. She was like, I could always cheer on others and I wanted them to do well, but I just couldn't do that for me. And I said, I'm sorry to hear that. And I think that's something we can all sort of reflect on. I think a lot of us go through that, right? And I think Black people collectively, we do this. I think collectively we cheer on other people, but we don't cheer on ourselves. We invest in other people, but we don't invest in ourselves. We do for other people, but we don't always do for ourselves. How is it that your boss's neighborhood is nice and clean because you've done a good job for him, but your neighborhood's not nice and clean? His kids are wealthy and have generational wealth, and your children don't have generational wealth. Right? Their families are stable and doing well because they've got plenty of resources, and your families are struggling and the resources are scarce. So with that, in terms of hearing my mother say that, it made me think about two things. One, that I said there's nothing wrong with the fact that you cheered on so many other people in that way. Like that's a blessing. You were a gift to others. You were my angel because you cheered me on my whole life. My mother was my cheerleader, right? That meant a lot for me. And the work the things she might not have been able to do, I want to do on her behalf. But then the other thing too is I think that there is something to be said about the fact that if you are going to sacrifice in that way, which I think sacrifice is okay. It's okay to sacrifice because it's not really a sacrifice if you do it in the proper context. A sacrifice to me would be, you think about the dollar, the black dollar, spending the black dollar. Let's talk about that. Let's go economic here. If I spend a black dollar, am I sacrificing that dollar? Is that an expense or is that an investment? Well, it's all about context, right? It's a sacrifice, and it's an expense if I run to Walmart and give them a dollar because they're gonna take my dollar, they're gonna run out of town. Or I run to the Chinese restaurant, I give the Chinese man a dollar, the Chinese man gonna go take care of Chinese people, and I'm gonna make sure Chinese families well fed. Right? If I spend a dollar across town, or trying to live next to white folks, or I'm a celebrity athlete and I go drop $100,000 at some Jewish guy's jewelry store, then that's a sacrifice. I'm sacrificing for somebody else. That's an expense, right? But if I take that same dollar and I put that in my own family, my own community, then that it might still be, you might still call it a sacrifice to some extent, but it's also an investment. Do you understand? It's a more of a good sacrifice. It's a good move, right? Because I spend a dollar with you, you're pro-black, so you spend a dollar with him, and then he's pro-black, so he spends a dollar with his daughter's business, and then she's pro-black, so she's spending with her friends, right? So that $1 has turned into $5 because we've always had a chance to use it over and over and over again. Do you understand? Do you follow me? Like a circulating dollar is like it's like having a house that everybody gets to live in. It's like having a car that everybody can drive to work. Right? It's like having something that gets used repeatedly as opposed to getting used one time. So it's because when you use something one time and you lose it, you have to go you have to go find you have to go get it again, right? You're vulnerable. Right. But if you're recycling things, when you recycle things, then they become much more valuable. There's a greater degree of sustainability. So my mother, by sacrificing so much for other people, sure, she should have saved some for herself. Absolutely, 100%. You must do that. But also, she poured into family. She poured into us, right? And we poured into her. I told you I paid off my mama's house before she died. I said I'm gonna be a good return on your investment, mama. And I don't know, maybe there's some trauma, maybe there's some trauma in my background that leads me to engage in. I've heard someone critique it as what is it that you performance based affection that you feel like you must earn love from other people by performing. I don't know if that's the case. I hope I'm not having that issue, but I do know I wanted to show out for my mama. My mama loved me and I wanted to show out for her. I was like, Mama, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get it for you. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna be one of your hunters. My daddy was a hunter too now, but I was like, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna go make some things happen. I'm gonna be a playmaker in the life of this family. I ain't gonna be no raggedy, lazy Negro calling Mama, Mama, I need $10. Mama, can you bail me out again? Mama, I got three babies, mamas, and they stressing me out and I need your help. No, I'm gonna show up and I'll be like, Mama, what you need? Mama, can I carry the groceries? Mama, can I can I pay off the house? Mama, you want a new car? How about we get you a new car? Mama, you need to take a trip. I'm gonna take you on a vacation, mama. Right? I wanted to do that, right? Because I wanted to be an asset to my mother. And that to me, I don't know, maybe that was driven by some sort of mental health issue. I have no idea. I don't give a damn. I know it felt good to show out for my mama. Right. And so what I would say to you is that, good mothers that pour into others and good fathers that pour into others, those who invest in people are some of the best investors alive. Sometimes you fall for the lie, and the lie is that the rich man sitting on top of a mountain married to a white woman, who has never invested in anybody, is somehow doing better than the black man who comes home every day to a good woman and pours into his kids. That somehow that rich rapper who's an alcoholic and a drug addict who has womanized his whole entire life and disrespected people and put himself in a situation where he's going to die at the age of 45, that somehow he's successful, and that mother who is there for her kids every day and really pouring into the family is somehow just a regular person, or even less than that she's a nobody. And that's the lie of capitalism. That is the lie of capitalism. I am not anti-capitalist. I want to make that clear. I'm not anti, because I see capitalism in a very nuanced way. There's healthy and then there's toxic. America's gotten a little bit on the toxic side. I'm gonna give you some data to help you understand that in a second. But I will say to you that don't you dare tell me that you've raised three kids and that you're not an investor. That doesn't even make any sense to me. I look at you like Scooby Doo. I'm like, what? I'm confused by that. Don't you dare tell me, man, that you've been married 30 years and you don't know nothing about investing. That you know more about investing than half of these damn fools on Wall Street. Because I know how hard it is to stay married and to keep the family together when everything's telling you to go out and go chase women and do what your buddies are doing. I know these things. Believe me, I've been a millionaire for a long time. Don't you dare tell me that you're pouring into your loved ones in a heavy way, that on Mother's Day that you got all these people around you, these grandbabies celebrating you, and everybody's texting you and telling you Happy Mother's Day, and you don't know nothing about investing, and that you have no wealth. Are you crazy? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, you have something money cannot buy. And it's a result of investment. Wealth comes from investment. So when you have the wealth of having this family that loves you, that would do anything for you, that would literally die for you. See, some people think you're wealthy if somebody will loan you $1,000, or bank will give you $100,000. No, you got people that will die for you. How much is that worth? How much wealth is that? Don't you dare tell me that you got all that going on and that you ain't got no wealth. You are wealthy beyond imagination. I go back to what I said a couple of days ago. Your problem is not a wealth problem. Your problem is just a liquidity problem. It's just like, how do you translate all this into the cash flow that you might need to go pay some bills? I get it. We all got to pay bills. So maybe paying bills was had to be a little bit secondary to feeding the babies and taking care of business and keeping the family together. Maybe you couldn't go out and pour into the 401k because you were so busy pouring into other people. Maybe you couldn't go and start that business or invest in those stocks because you were investing in family. But don't ever think that you're not wealthy. You just have to understand the game a little bit more so you know where real wealth comes from. Do you know? I mean, where do you think the Rothschilds came from? The Rothschilds wouldn't have existed without family. The father told the sons, "Hey, sons, you're a Rothschild, and that's going to mean something one day. And I want you to go and I want you to carry the Rothschild name throughout Europe, and we're going to engage in commerce, and everyone will know what a Rothschild is." And how many of y'all know what a Roth? How many of y'all know when I say the name Rothschild? How many of you have heard that name before? How many of you associate that name with wealth? How many of you know how rich the Rothschilds are so rich? They make the rappers look like paupers. You could get the richest entertainer on earth, and he would look like a poor person compared to the Rothschilds. They buy rappers and eat them for lunch. Don't be talking about Jay-Z having $1 billion. That's cute. That's cute to a Rothschild. So my point is to say, in fact, I dare Jay-Z to go and say something negative about the Rothschilds. Watch how quickly he ends up in prison and broke. That's a level of power that most people can't even dream about, and that all started with family. That all starts with family, right? So I think Mother's Day is an appropriate time to really talk about that and to really help you understand that wealth and family are connected. In the area where you will have an advantage over other people, you will have black privilege because you understand that balance better than I think most people in America do. Most people make mistakes when it comes to wealth. For example, this well, the biggest mistake is believing that wealth is going to come from your job. That's like almost like comedy if you look at the data. It's hilarious actually. And then also believing that all your wealth is financial. That's another massive mistake. Uh, and if somebody said Dame Dash might do that, what might Dame Dash do? Dame was my buddy. I hung out with Dame Dash a whole lot up until 2016, and then one day I just said, okay, I got to find new friends. But I love you, but I got to go. So, but I used to go to California and see Dame all the time. But oh, talk about the raw. Yeah, Dame might, but Dame is kind of out of the loop a little bit. I don't know if he's it's that's we'll have one day we'll have a Dame Dash conversation. Not today though. We're talking about the mothers. That's more important. All right. So anyway, with that being said, happy Mother's Day, and I just want to reiterate that to everybody that's here. And I want you to just understand that if you really want to learn investing in 30 seconds, I want you to think about everything that's required to be a mom. I want you to think about the consistency. You're consistently pouring into something, sacrificing for the future. Just keeping something secure and protected. This is all this is everything that you do as a mom is exactly what you do as a wealth builder. First you have to give birth to the child, so it's almost like an acquisition process. Like so, wealth you acquire the wealth, but then you must grow the wealth. Well, how do you grow the wealth? You grow the wealth through consistent investment. Well, how do you grow the child? When you feed the child every day, you teach the child, and then you must protect the child, right? So you protect the wealth. Financial security means wealth protection. In fact, I created that quiz to see how financially secure you are. I call it the financial freedom assessment. If you guys want to take the quiz and just see where you are, here's the link. I'm gonna put the link right here in the chat. So feel free to take a look at that. For those who don't see the link, just get on the text list for this class. Text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948, and I'll send it out to you guys if you want to just see where you are on the financial freedom, financial security scale. Financial security is rare in America. 60% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That is highly unfortunate. What is it? 95 Americans on average, sorry, on average, Americans spend 95% of their income, which is insane. That's an insanely high number. And so financial security is really something that isn't really taught to kids. It's something that I encourage you to reconsider and to look into. And what I'm gonna do is show you something as we're developing all of our kids stuff in the Black Business School. So I'm gonna show you this cute little cartoon that the team made to kind of give you some ideas on how you might introduce the concept of financial security to the kids. Because if you don't do that, then the world won't. The world's going to introduce spending to them. So you have to introduce investing and financial security. So let me play this. Give me a yes if you can hear this. I'm gonna play this right now in three, two, one, and go. Just when the kids thought they were done making tough choices, something shiny appeared again. Malik's eyes locked onto the coolest remote control car ever, spinning and glowing inside the toy store window like it was calling his name. Jasmine looked at the bright display and hesitated. Yeah, but do we really need it? The temptation was growing fast, and the toy looked like the greatest prize in the world. Later that night, the excitement faded. They sat down in Jasmine's bedroom and counted every coin and every dollar from their savings jar. Suddenly, the truth hit them hard. They don't have enough coins, and Malik is full of worry. If they spend it, their savings will be gone. But then Malik picked up the toy box again. He stared at it, torn between excitement and doubt. And that's when something strange appeared. A flickering shadow crept beside the box, shaped like a lightning bolt, fast, sneaky, and powerful. The shadow had a name, Impulse. Buy it, buy it, buy it now! It whispered like an echo. Malik's hands trembled. The magical ETF tree appeared in the corner, glowing like sunlight. A glowing vision appeared above them, like a magical movie scene. A single coin turned into many coins, then into a bigger stack, and then into a glowing bundle labeled growth. Jasmine's face lit up with confidence. They realized that saving is not losing, it's building.
They finally understood that money levels up. Then the kids made a powerful choice. Jasmine stood up and placed the toy back on the shelf with calm determination. Malik nodded proudly and dropped his money back into the savings jar. They are saving for something greater because they learned the greatest money lesson of all. When you save and invest wisely, your future grows bigger, brighter, and stronger every single day. Remember, kids, don't let impulse steal your goals. Let your money grow. Just when
Okay, did everybody see that? Let me know if you're able to hear that okay. Give me a quick yes if you're able to hear that. What AI models do we use, Christopher? We use a lot of them. AI is something that we've embraced generally, as an organization, and it's the wave of the future. It's really, really important. AIEmpireSociety.com. That's a group that we have. If you want to, learn AI with the collective, Micah Smith is running that. So feel free to go to AIEmpireSociety.com. So here's one thing. Here's a way to think about spending. If when you look at money, one part of financial consciousness is not just to see what something is. What really actually elevates your financial consciousness and strengthens an investor is when you see what something is becoming or what it will become if you allow it to grow. Right? Like if you see a woman that's pregnant, you can't just see a woman that's pregnant because it's not going to be a fetus forever. You can't just, if you see a 1 year old, it's not just a 1 year old. It's gonna one day it's going to be a 10 year old and a 20 year old and a 40 year old and etc. Right? So the ability to see things long term really plays an important role in how well you conduct yourself as an investor because money has and I talk about this in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, that money has a natural financial fertility to it. It grows naturally if you position it properly. So let's say, for example, you're thinking about buying something and it costs $2,000. You want to buy a $2,000, I don't know if it will be a TV, go on a vacation, whatever. And not to say you shouldn't do these things, but I want you to just try to process what you're losing when you do this. This is how wealth builders think. Well, did you know that if you took that $2,000 and literally just plopped it into the S&P 500 and thought nothing of it, and literally, even if you knew nothing about investing and you pick something like SPY, the Sierra Papa Yankee, which is the S&P 500 index fund, after 30 years, that $2,000 becomes $34,900 based on the history of the stock market. So that thing that you thought cost you $2,000 didn't cost you $2,000. It cost you $34,900 and counting, depending on how long you invest that money. So if I go out, if you anybody remember, there was a scene in the movie The Godfather where Robert De Niro's character was back in Italy, and and something happened where the gangster, the local mafia guy, killed his dad. He killed his dad, and then he killed his older brother because his older brother tried to get revenge for his dad. Well, Robert De Niro's character, who was a little boy, he was like 7 or 8. He knew he was in danger, right? He knew he was in danger because the gangster guy didn't see a 7-year-old. He saw a 7-year-old who will grow up and become a 27-year-old or a 17-year-old who wanted to get revenge for his father. So the gangster guy, so they had to get him out of town because the gangster guy was going to go kill the 7-year-old. He's like, no, I'm not going to let you grow, right? I'm going to make sure that, my fofo make sure none of your kids will ever grow. I think Tupac used that term, right? So the point is to say that when you're talking about wealth, and you are trained to give it away, you're trained to spend it, you're trained, or others cut your ability to preserve the wealth, then what they're doing is you're killing all the future growth of that wealth. So America, if you look at some of the statistics, this is why you want to be the person that really talks to your kids about impulsive spending and what it really means to be patience. That patience and was it patience and some degree of sacrifice leads to power later on. The average American spends 95% of their income. Number two, most Americans, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including households that make over 100,000 a year. So income is not the whole issue. It's also just the need to spend. The money burns a hole in your pocket. Americans carry about $1 trillion in credit card debt, which is a record high, more than a trillion now. The average credit card interest rate is 20%. So people finance a lifestyle they can't afford. It makes the banks very, very rich. That's why if you were to watch the corporate earnings numbers this week, they were astonished the experts were astounded by how much money these companies are making, even with the war and everything. If you own some of these stocks, they just went berserk this week. I don't know anybody see some of those companies just kind of go bananas. Um, Also, the average new car note in America is between $700 and $1,000 a month. People are financing cars for 72 to 84 months. So that's many, what's it, 72? I'm trying to do the math. Let me see. So 60 months is 5 years, 72 months is 6 years, 84 months is 7 years. So people are doing 7 year financing on cars, and sometimes they're really high interest rates. So you think about this, right? You think about the culture. They always call this the culture. You got to be part of the culture. Well, some parts of the culture are really interesting because you will see somebody that will finance a car for 7 years at 20% interest so they can look good for the culture. So they can get on Instagram and show everybody the new Mercedes they got while they literally sold their entire future for that. They're going to have to go and serve some racist capitalist for the next X number of years because they just put themselves in such a devastating financial hole that they'll never get out of that hole, right? What else? 40% of Americans actually would struggle to pay a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. So this is what the 5 year plan fixes. The 5 year pledge. The 5 year pledge, which if you don't understand it, just text the word pledge to the number 87948. So the 5 year pledge is where I'm asking you for 5 years invest in yourself as much as you invest in other people. For 5 years, match a bill, find a bill that you pay every month consistently, like a car note. Let's say it's $500 a month. Put the same $500 into a stock portfolio for yourself. Don't send that to me. I don't want the money. I want you to have the money. So put it into an S&P 500 index fund or something like that. If you do it for 5 years, theoretically, you should have about 34 to $40,000 after 5 years. If every black person in America did that, that would significantly close the racial wealth gap. If every black person in America did that, then we would literally go to complete financial security in less than 5 years. If every black person did that, if every black person paid their investment portfolio as consistently as we pay our car note, then this would make a dramatic change in the economic trajectory for the black community. And what's interesting is that though when they talk about this sort of issue, they always want to talk about things like jobs, right? They're like, oh, no, come work for more white people, and then your economics will be better off. And the data doesn't support that. In fact, it leads to more stress, misery, microaggressions, and unhappiness, and more paycheck to paycheck living. So if you don't change your behavior, if you don't change your economic activity and your economic thinking, then you're going to have the same problem you've always had. We've always had black jobs. We have black jobs since slavery. So the idea of more jobs solving the racial wealth gap is just nonsense. But something like that, I mean, tell me if you believe me. I just gave you the math. It's very easy. You take the money that you're already giving other people. You're already doing this. You're already doing this. You're already doing this. I'm not asking you to do anything new. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying do it for yourself too. Like just add yourself to the budget. Do you understand? Does that make sense? I think to me, I love this. I love talk. I get excited when I talk about this. I'm like, oh my god, the answer's simple. It's easy, right? It's right there, right? But the execution, it's like people. I think because we've been fed so many false solutions for so long, nobody believes me. I'm like, no, I taught math at the University of Kentucky. I know how to count. And if you simply take the same amount of money that you're already paying, because I see you paying the car note on time, I see you paying the cell phone on time, I see you paying the landlord on time. I'm just asking you to pay yourself on time, pay your family on time, pay your kids on time. You do that for 5 years, $500 a month. If you can't do five, do two or three, whatever. I say match your car note, right? Because you don't love your kids more than you love your car. I keep hitting you with that. That's a little bit of a guilt trip to maybe that'll motivate you, right? So you stop arguing and just get to work. And so literally 5 years, you're talking about 35, 30, between 34 and 30 and $40,000. In fact, with this stock market, it would probably be more than that. If you were doing tech stocks, oh my God. If you've been investing in any of these companies related to AI, has anybody seen what this stock market has been doing? It's been insane the last few weeks. It's like bafflingly strong, right? So the money's, and this is free money. This nobody goes to work to get the money they're making in the stock market. Like this is all money that's just plopping up in your account if you own these stocks. So basically, 5 years, 34 to 40,000, 10 years, over 100,000, 20 years, $300,000. So if we stick to our plan for 5 years, then there's no more of this, like, 40% of people can't get $400 for an emergency. No, you got over 30,000. You're going to be fine. You're secure in 5 years. 10 years, you're actually wealthy. 10 years, that's when all your friends will say that you were blessed and lucky, and somehow you sold out, and the white man did it for you, whatever. Not, or you became a Republican or something. I don't know. Like just people just make stuff up because whenever you start doing well, believe me, there are so many. There are people that, unfortunately, when you know psychology and you've studied it as much as I've had to over time, you learn about things like learned helplessness. That when people are convinced that they are a victim, when they are convinced that they are helpless, when they're convinced that they can't solve a problem, they will defend their right to have no solution. Like they will defend their helplessness. Has anybody ever seen that? Where somebody will spend more energy fighting against your solution than they will spend implementing the solution. And part of it's just because they've just been trained that way. We get trained into this. And it took me a long time to really understand this. I said, oh my God, my whole life, all I've heard is that being black means you can't do nothing for yourself, right? And I'm like, that's not going to get us where we want to get to. So here's so let's to continue the math, just for those that forgot. 5 years, you're talking about thirty to $40,000. 10 years, you're approaching 100,000. 20 years, somewhere at least a quarter million, probably more theoretically. Again, no guarantees though, but this is the history. 30 years, you're almost $1 million liquid. If you're able to be even more assertive, like some of you are doing well, some of you have lots of extra money. If you invested $1,000 a month, then the numbers double. You're $2 million in 30 years. You're at 600,000 in 20 years. If you do $2,000, then that take multiply by four. In 20 years, you're at $1.2 million. So you have kids that are born, you invest consistently for them, you pay them just like you pay the landlord, just like you pay the car dealer. Your kids never have to work for anybody ever. And also you add that with some knowledge, and then boom, they're out here doing amazing stuff, and they're living really just a better, more purposeful life. Like they're not wasting their whole life at a job that they hate, spending the majority of their time around people that they don't like and people who don't like them. I just think that that's the kind of thing money can't buy. Now, I want to share something with you. One of you that's in this class, let me see if I can make this come up on my screen. I can't. Okay, I can't make it come up on my screen, so I want to read it. The McClellan. Oh, here it is. Okay, I want you to see it. The McClellan family is in this class, and they're out of my hometown of Louisville. I don't know if they're here. If you're here, you can say your name in the chat. And they have this business where they they have these great products that they offer. They're related to like skin and beauty and stuff like that. And it's called Royal Affirmation. And if you read it here, it says, I am seen. I think this is great for Mother's Day, right? I am seen. I am royal. My melanin is powerful. My melanin deserves care, designed with understanding. I choose knowledge rooted in care. I build rituals that nourish and protect my skin with intention, with consistency, with pride. I honor my melanin. I honor my skin. I honor my glow. And it says Melanin Majesty. And the URL here is icuroyalty.com. icuroyalty.com. So feel free to go check out that black owned business. And if you want to know how they ended up here, it's because they support the Black Business School. So I want to support them and what they're doing. So shout out to the McClellan family and Royal Affirmation. And so if you want to give a business shout out, if you have a business, something like that, we do have sponsorship roles at the All Black National Convention. You can get shout outs digitally or at the convention. So feel free to go to allblacknationalconvention.com. At allblacknationalconvention.com, you'll see a place where you can buy a ticket if you want to bring your family. We have tracks, we have educational tracks for the children, young adults, everything else. If you want to be a vendor and you want to bring your products and sell them there will be hundreds of people there that believe in black owned business. We cap it at 750. We don't want more than 750 people because we want the intimacy. So when you see someone on stage, you can actually go talk to the person. So this is not something that's designed to be celebrity worship or where you're sitting there and somebody's way up there and you wish you could talk to them but you can't. You'll be able to talk to all the speakers, all the people that are there, all the experts, and we got a ton of them. Everybody, people from academia, lots of PhDs will be there. We're partnering with the Black Doctoral Network run by Dr. Maurice Green, the National Business League, which has hundreds of black chambers of commerce across the country, Dr. Ken Harris. Brother Nuri Muhammad is coming, and Riza Islam is coming. Like so, actually, you know what, Riza, I got to make sure Riza's coming, but Riza and I were talking, and so he's connected to what we're doing. So there's like lots of really interesting people. So if you want to come to the convention, go to allblacknationalconvention.com. If you want to be a sponsor, there's also a link for sponsorship. There's a lot of stuff there that you can do if you want to partner with us. All right, so let me go back and let me share something else with you. In terms of there's something else I wanted to show. Yeah, this is what was interesting. I was looking at DEI, and I see the whole battle with DEI, and I did some research on, who benefited the most from DEI. And I don't know if anybody knows this. You probably may have heard some of this, but let me show you. These are some stats from the Census Bureau and some other places. And the references are, this is on my Instagram, which is Dr. Boyce Finance. The references are at the bottom, the Department of Labor, stuff like that, McKinsey. The biggest beneficiaries from DEI are actually white women. I think a lot of you may have heard that. I don't know if you guys know that or not. And then I didn't know, this is the part that surprised me. Then number two was Asian Americans. Number three was Hispanics, Latinos. And then we're at the bottom, but we're like the mascots for DEI. Does anybody know? So like when they talk about DEI, everybody's like, "That's anti-black, anti-black." I'm not saying it's pro-black, but maybe it's more anti-white woman or anti-Asian. I don't really. I haven't seen like thousands and thousands of people from the Asian community protesting the whole DEI thing. LGBTQ, my gosh, like again, it's really interesting. And I don't know, you can kind of make your own assumptions about the politics behind it, but it just seems like everybody loves to use us as their little crash dummy and their case study, and that just is, I don't, that kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. So anyway, so if anybody ever says, the DEI thing is a black thing, it's not a black thing, it's a white woman thing. But the predecessor for DEI, affirmative action, and I support DEI too, right? And actually, affirmative action is how I got the opportunity at Syracuse. Syracuse University refused to hire black professors in the black business school. I'm sorry, in their business school. It wasn't a black business; it was a white business school. But they literally every single department did not have one single black person there, and they kept telling them, "You got to hire black people. They're qualified black people." And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, okay, we'll get around to it." So they just forced them. The administration came in and paid half of our salary. That was how much. So they literally were willing to hire us for cheap, for like half pay. And so we were like, they have three-fifths of a person. We weren't three-fifths. We were actually one half of a person to them. And they were like, well, if you give us a cheap professor, then we'll take one. And it was really difficult too, also because in that institution, the challenge was I didn't have anybody black that I could go and work with that could be like a good mentor. Mentors are really important, in these organizations. A lot of you know this already, and I just didn't have any. I mean, when I was at Ohio State, I had a guy named W.C. Benton. He was the only black person they'd ever given tenure to in the entire business school at Ohio State. But he was a bad boy. He was not just great at what he did, but he also was a military guy, and he used to he just really talk. He really talked. I like black men that talk tough. I don't like black men that are punks. When you up here like, well, you gotta bow and scrape, and if you lick their ankles well enough, then they'll give you an opportunity. I didn't want to hear all that. I want to hear a man talk about fighting. And he said, boys, we went to go eat. We went to Burger King, and here this man's he's in his late 50s, like overweight, probably shouldn't be eating no damn Burger King, but he was like chomping on a Whopper, and he said, boys, when I was in my unit in the Marines, he said we knew that even if you were surrounded and you were gonna lose, you fired the gun until you got no more bullets left in the gun. I said, that's right. Yeah, we gonna fire the gun. We gonna go all out. Rambo, right? So, so that was like, so W.C. Benton, and let me just tell you, that man got me over the hump. He got me over the hump because I was a loud. I've always been a loudmouth black man. That ain't nothing new. I was like that when I was 25. I just gotten a little more. I've gotten a little smarter and a little more nuanced, but still, I'm the same person. And they had surrounded me. They were trying to get me like out of there. And he went in there and he busted through like Rambo and said, "If you mess with him, you messing with me." And they backed up because and that's what it looks like when a strong black man stands up for another one. And I shout out to all of you that hold the line, that are not scared, that believe in yourselves, that really believe that black power is real. Right? Black power, black privilege, all these things are real. These are things, but these are things you got to fight for and you got to defend. Right? You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to kind of go through some discomfort to really be strong and black. Tell me if you agree with me on this. I kind of think that, that it does, you cannot go into a fight and not expect to get punched in the face sometimes, right? They burn down your Black Wall Street. There's some people who say, this is why we don't build nothing, because every time we build something, they just gonna burn it down. That's what they gonna do. No, I want to hear the person that says, okay, they burned it down, now we rebuild. Now we fortify, and maybe we might burn something of yours down next, right? I don't know. Like, wait, we're here. We're not punks, and you have to show that. If you don't show that, then what you're doing is you're glorifying your adversary. When you sit, all you do is complain about what they did to you, and all you do is tell everybody, like, look at what they did. They hurt it in me again. I'm always the victim. They always hurt it in me. Like, they're not. Nobody respects that. They're gonna say, okay, so you're a punk. You're not serious. You're not an adult. You're just a child, and you're gonna sit and cry. You go cry, and then the grown-ups are gonna go run the world, and that's what happens. And I personally will say that to some extent, there and really economically speaking, because economics really is war. Economics is war. The whole Iran situation, it ain't nothing but it ain't nothing but economic warfare. The U.S. and Iran have declared economic warfare on each other, and it's turned physical as well. But the Iranians, their goal is to disrupt the American economy by increasing the price of oil, by blocking the Strait of Hormuz and disrupting global supply chains. The Americans have had sanctions on Iran, economic sanctions on Iran since forever, right? So their goal is to starve out the Iranians, right? So ultimately, economics really is war. And war is hard. War requires security. You have to think about security. That means you protect. So that means in economic warfare is typically declared on you from the time you're born. There's somebody when you give birth to. Shout out to to all the moms, because when you give birth to that little black baby, there's somebody that sees that baby as their commodity, and their goal is to come and claim your child. Whether they're going to claim him so they can make money from him in the NFL, or they want to claim him so he can go work on the corporate plantation, or they want to claim him so they can put him in the penitentiary and make money from that. They want to claim him so they can put him in a failing public school, but yet they get paid no matter what, even if he doesn't learn how to read. They want to sell him on hip hop and gangster rap, so he goes and spends all his money on nonsense right before he ends up doing something illegal and going to prison, right? So ultimately, when you're talking about economic warfare, the ability to grow and then to protect what you're growing and to rebuild what you've lost is essential. Business owners and investors lose all the time. You get punched in the face, something happens, somebody launches a missile at your factory, so to speak, and or your portfolio gets blasted to oblivion. You always have to have the capacity to rebuild, and you have to learn and say, okay, let's put some security in place. That's why financial security is important. I think financial security should be essential for anybody trying to be black in America, because the first thing they do, the first tool they use to control you is economics. That's literally that is a tool, and it is a weapon, and it is one that you want working in your favor, because if it's not working in your favor, you're in trouble. And if you love your kids, you give them the security and the knowledge so that they then can defend themselves. You don't send your child out into a dangerous neighborhood where they're going to get bullied or shot and send them with no protection. You say either stay out of the neighborhood, son, or here, I need you to be packing something, son, or I need you to know how to handle yourself so that when you go in that neighborhood, you'll know what to do and what not to do so that nothing bad happens to you. But if you send your child into, some gang affiliated area with no protection, no nothing, no knowledge, he's going to get hurt. Right. So to economic warfare is gang affiliation. I've mentioned to you before that all these corporations, they ain't nothing but economic gangs. What is a gang? A gang is where a group of people get together and they live by the same standards, same code, have the same objective. There's rules for being in the gang. And then maybe they have a logo, like Apple Computer is an economic gang. They all follow the same rules and have the same goal, and they wear the Apple logo. If you violate the rules, you get booted out of the gang. Indiana University, where I met my wife, is a gang. They're worth billions of dollars, and they have a little logo. When you see the little IU, whenever I go anywhere and I got on my gang affiliation, all the Hoosiers are like, Hoosiers, Hoosiers, right? That's what they do, right? Because we're all in the same gang to some extent, right? B1 is a gang. You got the little panther back here. You got when I say B1, you know what I'm talking about. It means black first, right? We're an economic gang. Every gang affiliation is something that happens all throughout the animal kingdom, not just all throughout humanity, throughout the entire animal kingdom. That's why you see geese. Geese don't. A goose is not going to be with a pack of lions. He gonna get ate. Right? A goose is gonna be with other geese. The zebras are gonna be with other zebras. The lions are gonna be with other lions. You know what I'm saying? Black people, though, we're weird. We'll be like a goose hanging out with parakeets, right? We'll literally be trying to get in, or we'll be like we're like the tiger that wants to swim with the fish, and you can't swim, and you're not a fish, and the fish are looking at you like you're a weirdo. But we really are working so hard to be included because we don't understand the importance of being together and being with each other and supporting each other, right? So your family is your first gang, and then your community is the second gang, and then you have businesses, and that's another gang. And I encourage everybody to get gang affiliated, gang gang. That's what the kids say, gang gang, right? I'm all about the gang and you figuring out like who is your gang, who is your clique, who is your crew, because in this world, when you are isolated, that's how the beast of capitalism feeds on your soul. They feed on your isolation. They feed on the fact that you're a single mom with no help. They feed on the fact that you ain't got no family that you can go to, that you scared of your own relatives. They feed on the fact that you're financially desperate and you have nobody else you can turn to and you don't know how to build your own institutions. They feast on that. Capitalism thrives on the vulnerable. It thrives on the weak. So are you going to go into this economic warfare? Are you going to go in strong? Or are you going to go in weak? Are you going to go in by yourself? Or are you going to go in? Are you going to be rolling deep? Are you going to be defenseless or are you going to have weapons and shields that will make sure that you succeed? These weapons and shields are things that we know how to build. I happen to be a master at the development of economic weaponry, right? So with your kids who are part of your gang and your job is to protect them and show love for them, what you're already doing, then just go a step further and say, okay, I'm gonna show extra love by making sure you're financially secure, financially safe, so nobody can come along and buy my daughter for a bag of Cheetos because she's been listening to Cardi B records that tell her she should give it up to the highest bidder. You can't go buy my son's time because you offered him $42,000 a year because my son already has a portfolio. He's got bigger dreams than you. That job is not his dream. There's no such thing as a dream job. In a family that's financially strong, there's no such thing as a dream job. There is no such thing as a dream job. Stop saying a dream job. Stop using that term. There's no such thing as a dream. Who the hell dreams of going to work every day? Who dreams of labor? Who dreams of working for somebody your whole life? That's not a dream. Maybe there's like a decent paying job that exists. Maybe there is like a job that is acceptable, right? Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's it. Like I found, or maybe even a good job, right? Some of y'all got good jobs. Nothing wrong with a good job, but a dream job. I don't know if that's. I'm like, are you really like you really go to sleep and when you can dream about anything, you can dream about Beyonce, you can dream about being a billionaire, you can dream about being with your loved ones, but you dream about going to work. I don't dream about going to work, man. I dream about getting off of work. The dreams happen when you go home, not when you at your damn job. So stop saying dream job. You do not have your dream job. You might have a good job though. And nothing against good jobs. I'm nothing against a good job is better than a bad job. But it ain't a dream job because dream jobs don't exist most of the 99% of the time. Maybe if you're in the NBA or the NFL, then okay, all right, you got $100 million contract. All right, you kind of do have a dream job. I have to give a caveat, but for the most part, dream jobs are not a thing, except in a world of obsessive, ridiculous, highly addictive capitalism that you live in America, and that's what you have. That's why you have people like, I want a dream job. No, no such. No, the American dream is not at your job. The American dream does exist, though. The American dream exists outside of your job. The American dream exists with freedom, free time, plenty of money to enjoy that time with. That comes through investing in ownership. So the American dream does exist, but you have to go outside the box to obtain it. It does not live inside the factory. It does not live inside the system. I'm sorry. I hate saying this, but this is what it is. All right. Now, I just realized my homeboy David is here. David, say something in the chat. David's in there, and so any of you that want to meet with me one on one or something like that, David is the guy that can set that up. David, can you put your phone number in there, and I'll say it out loud. If you want to meet with me one on one, just but only call them if you really want to do something like that. Like, and it's not cheap and it's not free. If you call just to kick it and hang out, if you have something that you want to share, email the support team. Our support team is always available. They're really great people. Their email address is support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And so David's going to put his information there. If I see, there we go. His phone number is 734-336-2522. 734-336-2522. And he also has a link. So if you want me to meet with your family or you want to talk business or something like that, it does there again. There's a consultation fee. That's how we pay the bills in the Black Business School. But if that's something you want to do, then David is the only guy that can set that up because I don't have that much time to do a lot of one-on-ones because I got so much stuff going on. But anyway, all right. With that being said, speaking of that, I gotta actually go. Me and my wife are going to South Africa in 2 days. So yeah, there's stuff happening there. So some of you are going with us. So shout out to you. And those who in the next trip, I'll let you guys know when we take another one. If you want to come on a business trip with us, feel free. We do all kinds of activities in the Black Business School because I also think that you should have a journey toward whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. A lot of you have big goals and dreams, and I love you and respect that. And I think the journey is fun when you're part of a group, part of a community. One thing that's happening in America that I think that some of you may have noticed, but this is really true. There's kind of like, has anybody heard them talk about this? It's like a loneliness epidemic. They're saying that like a lot of people are feeling lonely and isolated and stuff like that. And so I don't want you to feel that way. And I encourage you, to just consider, coming to something that we're doing because there's gonna be other people there that are just good people. The number one compliment that we've gotten on the convention, this is our 11th year, is that the energy is really positive and it's intelligent and it's beneficial. And I guess maybe that's a reflection. Like some people that who are different from that or who are more toxic and negative, they tend to run away from people like me, right? So the people that tend to come tend to be very uplifting and supportive of each other. So if you're looking for a good space with good people that value intelligence, you don't have to be smart. You just got to want to be smart, right? You don't have to be educated. You just have to want to be educated, right? That's it. That's all, So if you value intelligence and education, then this might be a great place to join. So feel free to come join us at the convention. It's going to be in Jersey City the weekend of October 16th, and that's allblacknationalconvention.com. Allblacknationalconvention.com. I think I shared everything. Oh, one more thing I'll put in the chat is if you want to take that financial security assessment, I put the link in there. So I'm going to leave the Zoom open for a second so you can grab the link and you can take the test and see where you stand. Oh, yeah. I want to show you something before I go, though. There's one more thing I want to show you. Here I am all over the place. It's Mother's Day, so maybe that's why my brain is everywhere. But yeah, let me show you all this. I saw this video that I thought was really cool, and I put it on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and it just I don't know. It was funny, but it had a point, right? So it's like, what if life never gave us challenges to overcome? Like one of the things I've always believed is anything the things that happen to you, if you process it properly, they're actually happening for you, right? Like and it's important, I think, for us to understand because we go through a lot. And to me, if you go through a lot, that thing you go through, it can either be just like in finances, it can either be an expense or it can be an investment. An expense is when you lose something and you never get it back. An investment is where you lose something temporarily, but you gain back more than what you lost, right? And how you process your experience, how you process your life, sort of reframing your trauma in a healthy way, can really take those tough experiences you've gone through and take you to another level. Remember, tough people, you never find a tough person who hasn't gone through tough experiences. And give me a yes if you would agree that being tough is better than not being tough, right? Just being tough is better than being a punk. So the hard part about being tough is that you have a trial by fire. You have to go through tough experiences to be a tough person. I don't know about y'all, but I like the fact that I'm kind of a tough person. But let me just tell you the truth. My father was a tough man. He put me through some tough stuff. He put me through some stuff where I was really talking about it. Y'all be like, "Oh, I think you might have been abused," and I'll be like, "Yeah, I probably was." Right? So the therapy helps you kind of heal and say, "Okay, that was a little bit too much. You went a little bit too far." But hey, you know what? The good outweighs the bad. I love you, Dad. Yeah, I know you weren't perfect. He was overcoming a heroin addiction, and he was raised in a pretty tough way. So tough experiences. And I think about Michael Jackson. I think about the complex relationship they had with their father Joe. I think about the complex legacy he has, right? Because on one hand, you're like, yeah, Joe, you can say a lot of bad things about Joe. Um, in fact, his own children have said bad things about him in terms of the amount of discipline, the abuse, and things like that. But then, tell me if you agree. Tell me if you agree with this. Without Joe Jackson, there would be no Jackson Five. Tell me if you agree with that. Without Joe Jackson, Michael Jackson never would have been the superstar he became. Tell me if you agree that without Joe Jackson, Michael wouldn't have been a billionaire. I mean, his estate just he Michael Jackson has made $3 billion as a dead person. So he's gonna make money for the next 100 years. He's probably gonna make a couple $1 trillion or more before he's done. So again, I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm saying how do you balance that? How do you what do you know? So with Joe Jackson, it has to be a complex legacy, like a business. You make those who make heavy investments tend to get heavy rewards. How much is too much? Well, it depends on the person. So with Joe Jackson, I think he's a great example of that, and I think that looking at that with nuance is better than looking at it from a one-dimensional framework. Tell me if you agree. Nuance means that you acknowledge, yeah, I guess multiple things have to be true. Yeah, he was a son of a bitch, but man, that son of a bitch raised some amazing kids that did some amazing things and had an amazing life because of it. And if you were, and also that son of a bitch was also trying to figure out how do I raise a bunch of black boys in Gary, Indiana, which soon became the murder capital of the earth. There was no place where black male was more likely to be murdered than Gary, Indiana. Do you understand that? Like Gary fell apart when all the businesses and factories were gone. So you're scared. You're trying to keep your sons out the street. And so again, I don't know. It depends on how you look at it, but I think a $1 million question would be if you ask Michael if you could go back to when you were a baby and have none of the mistreatment, none of the abuse happen. Let's say Joe was not even in the house at all, and it was just you and your mom and your brothers, and you never ever learned all the things you learned about music. You were never forced to practice until it hurt. You were never pushed to do all this. The trade-off would be you'd had a nicer life, but you would have had a regular life. You would have grew up and maybe you would have worked in a factory. Maybe you would have had a better job. Maybe you could have been an accountant or something like that. Would Michael make that trade? I don't know. I'm not here to answer that for you. I'm just here to say I think that it requires a deeper analysis than to just say Joe was a bad guy. Do you all get what I'm saying? And I think about this because investing is kind of the same way. Most people I know who are extremely successful literally had to give to the point where they wondered if they gave too much. Do you understand what I mean? Like I call this a blood sacrifice. Or like if you watch the movie Avengers, Thanos wanted to be the most powerful man in the universe, and to do that he had to acquire a bunch of stones, and one of the stones was the Soul Stone. He had to lose a piece of his soul to become the most powerful person in the universe. And most people I know that are really powerful, the person that became the billionaire or the multimillionaire or the NBA champion, they usually had like a soul stone. I know I can think in my life about blood sacrifices I made where I was like, huh, did I give too much? Like, I don't know if it keeps you up at night because you're like, did the good outweigh the bad? I don't know. Right. And so really, but that's the reality of it all. It's very hard to get a big harvest when you didn't plant an incredibly high number of seeds. Right? You get the biggest harvest, usually it's because you planted the most seeds. Life does not give you what you want, life gives you what you earn. Life gives you what you kind of deserve, right? So you look at Michael Jordan, for example. Michael Jordan is a guy who lives a dream life, who has had some amazing things happen. But Michael also, you can look at his marriage and look at what happened with his family, and you see him. He's got the whites of his eyes are yellow because he doesn't look completely healthy. He's mad all the time, right? Right? So he's always pissed off about something, right? So I see when I look at Michael Jordan, I see a guy who lives an amazing life, but he internally I'm sure there's a lot of conflict there, right? So anyway, let me play this little video, and this is I gave you the extra long introduction, but I wanted to contextualize it because it does relate to wealth and investing, and it's a personal decision. I can't make it for you, but I thought the video was funny, so here it is.
Told you boys to sing it right. Mission accomplished. Let's celebrate by listening to some Michael Jackson.
Michael who?
No! Some troublemaker in Jamaica, Queens is giving me problems. I want you to shoot him 9 times to teach him a lesson.
Mission accomplished. Let's celebrate by listening to some 50 Cent.
50 who?
No!
Okay, so that's the message, right? I thought the video was pretty funny. I didn't make it. Some guy made it. I shared it. But still though, it to me it's like I think that the best you can do in life, because you're gonna have things that are gonna happen to you. You're gonna lose love, you're gonna lose money, maybe you'll lose your health or you'll lose your battle. But uh how you frame everything really matters a lot. And I would say that, and this is almost spiritual, that anything that happens to you can be something that actually happens for you. You just got to go and dig and say, okay, what's the lesson here? And how is this going to make sure that I elevate in a certain way? And that's really important, I think, for investing, because you'll never lose more money than you'll lose as an investor. But the trade-off is that you'll never make more money than you've ever made as an investor. And the ability to internalize and to absorb, to deal with all of that is essential, right? Yeah, so anyway, that's it, guys. It was great to see you. God bless you. Happy Mother's Day again to all the mothers out here. And David, feel free to drop that number in there again if anybody wants to reach out for a session. And I hope you guys have a great day. God, oh, there's the link. Okay, he gave a link right there, so feel free to click on that link, and I'll leave the Zoom open for a minute. So have a good day, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye bye.